Dr. Marilyn Stoner. I'm the instructor for Nursing 658. You're about to view a lesson developed by CSUSB graduate students. If you have any questions about this video or the content, you can contact me at mstoner@csusb.edu, and I'll be happy to answer your questions. We hope you enjoy it. The students have done a lot of work on this.
How to critique a quantitative article for Nursing 353. Presented by Nursing 658 students Corey Van Dusen, Joy Santos, Lolly Rydell, and Ray Vargas. Learning outcomes and objectives. Students will identify a quantitative article's purpose of study and how to apply to their research question. Students will describe the justification of the need for this quantitative study. Students will describe a study design and decide whether the design is appropriate for their study question. Students will identify any biases the author may have. Students will describe the target sample and determine if informed consent was obtained. Students will identify interventions, interpret results, and make conclusions based on their study. Please refer to the McMaster University Critical Review Form for quantitative studies during the course of this video.
Hey Lolly.
Hey Joy, how are you?
I need help with this critiquing a quantitative study. Maybe you can help me.
Yeah, I sure can. I remember taking that class, and I actually had used this tool to do that. So the quantitative article, what you're doing is wanting to just do a systematic way of looking at an article and go step by step to make sure that, just to see the strengths and weaknesses of the article. So the first things first is the citation. Do you know how to do APA?
Yeah, actually got the information from www.zotero.com.
That's a great site to use. Yes, keep going with that. And then you want to look at the purpose of the study and the justification why they needed to do that study. So let me see the article. I remember this article. I'm very familiar with it. So I remember it was right around here is where the purpose and the need for the study was.
Yeah, the purpose is just to test the instrument to measure the perception of the nursing students to their instructor.
Right, of the nursing instructors, the caring. So, and I remember the need for it was because most of the research done on caring and their perception was all qualitative measures. So they want to find a quantitative measure or a tool to find that quantitative measure of the caring, the instructor's caring.
Let's review. Citation. Provide a full citation for this article in APA format. Study purpose. Outline the purpose of the study. How does the study apply to your research question? Was the purpose stated clearly? Literature. Describe the justification of the need for this study. Was the relevant background literature reviewed?
So the next step is trying to figure out what kind of design the article used in order to do the study.
Yeah, I think this is a before and after because they use a pretest and post-its.
Exactly, yeah. And then the biases, I don't remember there being a bias. I remember thinking there were because they took questions out on their own, but they actually used statistical data that showed a correlation between the items that they were deleting. So it ended up being just perfect with no biases. If we're looking, that's a strength in the article when we're looking at it, that critiquing it.
Let's review. Design. Specifying the study design. Was the design based on the study question? Biases. Identify any biases that may have altered the study results.
So let's talk about the sampling.
Right. So when you're looking at the sampling, you want to look at the groups that they're surveying or studying, and the similarities and the differences and the size of the group. So in here, the nursing students were surveyed. They were all nursing students. That was a similarity, but their difference were some were juniors, some were seniors, and the researchers even told about. I remember a difference in their perception of the professors caring.
Right. And for the informed consent, because the researchers have the obligation to fully inform the students of the research that they have them sign a consent form for it.
Exactly. And the size of the groups, you want to make sure that it represents the target population that they're trying to generalize for. So you want to make sure the size is good enough to represent the whole target population.
Right. How about the outcomes?
So the outcomes, in this article, they did a pre-test and a post-test to find their outcomes. That's how they measured the outcomes to develop that tool. They found that they were reliable and it was a valid tool because they had consulted a research methodologist. So they weren't just making this tool up themselves. They went to an expert who could help them with that. And then when you just look in each, you just want to make sure you know what the outcomes are and what they're looking for. So they're looking at the professor's caring and how it influences they just want to look to see if the nursing students perceive their instructors as caring.
And then for the list measured, they just look at the survey.
Yeah, they just use the survey to find those measurements. Yeah.
And for the interventions, I think they talk about deleting some of the questions in the survey to make it shorter.
Exactly, and I think that's the only intervention they used. But what about, was contamination avoided in the survey?
I don't think those last two are applicable in the research.
Okay, yeah, they never mentioned anything about contamination or anything like that. You're right.
Let's review. Sample. How was the sampling done? Any similarities between two or more groups? Ethics. Review the ethics procedures and determine if consent was obtained. Outcomes. Were the outcomes valid and reliable? Interventions. Summarize the interventions and determine if they could be replicated in practice.
So how about the clinical importance?
Yeah, so that's the next. That goes in with the results. So you wanna see if there were differences between the groups. If there were groups, and if that was clinically meaningful. So if applicable. In this case, I think it was applicable because there were the juniors and the seniors. Mm-hmm. They remember them describing again. We had talked about it before whether. Because the seniors perceived the instructors as being more caring than the juniors did. So I thought that was a definite difference between the group when the results came out. That was a definite difference. So and I think it was meaningful because the whole point of them is trying to get the nursing students' perceptions, and if that was a difference. That's something to look at later on, or what they can research maybe later on.
And for the dropouts, I don't remember.
Well, you always want to see whether people who participated early on in the study were dropped out or not. So, because when you're looking at an article and critiquing it, you want to see if people who were there at the beginning may have changed what the results mean at the end. So you want to see if people dropped out or not, and or why. Mm-hmm. So I don't remember them talking about any dropouts.
Yeah, I don't remember it either.
That's because no one drops out of nursing school.
For the conclusions and implications, I guess you can read all about it under conclusions, which usually says conclusions.
Except if it's a good article.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
that would be another strength of the article. And most of them, you're right, do. And implications. Because they will usually say whether, a good article will also tell you what further research could be done from their results. And what it means from their results. Like why, that goes back to the purpose of why they even did the study. And the implications, how it can be put into practice. So here, remember they were developing the tool for to see if nursing professors are caring. That's that was their overall goal. So they want to see if it actually worked very well. They could put that into practice and have a quantitative measure of that.
So the shortened scale was actually, it does show promise in the future
Mm-hmm.
to survey the student nursing's perception on their instructor based on Watson's caring theory.
Yeah, that is what they had concluded. And then, didn't they say something about the limitations of
Yeah,
it?
and they were talking about that, that because they use a smaller sample of students, that additional testing with a larger group would be very, very beneficial.
Right, yeah, because I remember we were gonna talk about that, or I wanted to say something about that when we talked about the sample size, how they just used that one nursing program. So they used the different groups, the seniors and the juniors, but because it was just that one nursing program that was aimed at the target population, it would probably be beneficial if they developed one and just tested it on a larger scale.
Right.
Yeah. So the conclusions were definitely appropriate. The way that they worded it, they didn't say that it's great and you're ready to go out and do it and use it right now, but they recommended further practice. So that's always good when an article gives recommendations as well. That's something you're looking for when you're critiquing an article. So, great. You're going to do such a great job.
Oh, thank you for your help.
You're welcome, Joy. Good luck.
Thank you.
Let's review results. Were the results statistically and clinically significant to show a difference? Conclusion. What did the study conclude? Were they appropriate for the study? Implications. What are the implications of the study? How will it affect your practice? We chose this article because it was a quantitative review of Watson's theory of caring. Let's take a moment to discuss this theory. Watson's theory of transparency caring emphasized the humanistic aspects of nursing combined with scientific knowledge. Nurses are to display unconditional acceptance and promote health through knowledge and intervention. Each interaction a nurse has with a patient is defined by Watson as a caring moment. Through these caring moments, a nurse's attitude and competence determines how a patient will respond.